All right, folks, we just finished another great customer support client success executive brain trust. Today, we talked about the maturity matrix, being able to create more complexity that helps you understand more, not create more complexity, but understand more complexity when it comes to the customer journey. This is the second time our Lightning Talk speaker, Sean Albertson, came to speak on this topic. We had a great Lightning Talk, some good questions, and then we went into breakout rooms. Now we're doing a panel discussion of our participants in the Customer Support Client Success Executive Brain Trust, where we bring together CS folks to have conversations and share best practices. So I'm going to actually turn the time over to Sean to just quickly cover in more detail the topic that we talked about. And then I'm going to open it up to our participants to kind of share their insights that they got from their breakout rooms. So with that, Sean, I'll turn the time over to you.
Absolutely. Well, Paul, thank you so much. And again, thanks for having me back on the Executive Brain Trust here. And what we talked about today was, again, as you described, the CX analytics maturity. It really comes down to how do you measure and understand your customer's experience? Because it's a lot harder today than it ever has been. Because we now have, and have been building over the years, so many new contact channels, ways to communicate, ways to work with customers, the explosion of tools and processes and technology that have actually made the experience so much worse. And so as we think about moving from a lower maturity level where maybe you only use surveys to really listen to the voice of the customer, more to multiple surveys or even beyond, into using things like text analytics or journey analytics, and then ultimately, are you integrating those tools so they work together in tangent, or do they stay in their silos? We talked a lot about how to do that, how to up channel, because today's capability are exactly that. The fifth level, the top level of CX analytics maturity goes to a fully integrated environment where you're looking at the journeys, you're looking at all the technology, you're looking at the people interactions, and you're integrating them, and then you're changing the customer's behavior or the customer's response to their needs in real time. Personalization on steroids, if you will, is getting in there and realizing someone's about to go down a negative path, interrupting them and moving them to a positive solution. And that's really where we all should be trying to go. And that's where AI and all the new technology is enabling us to do that, is to get to that highest level. But it takes a very clear understanding of the right strategy, the right tools, the right processes to get to a 3 or a 4, much less all the way to a 5.
Now, I want to keep you on the spotlight here for a second, Sean. We are talking about this maturity matrix scale, and we sent out a poll asking everyone in the Brain Trust where they're currently at. If they're at a 1, which is using one data source, to a 2, which is called siloed, to a 3, which is multimodal, to a 4, integrated, and a 5, proactive. Now, you had mentioned in your presentation, the majority of businesses are at a 2, moving toward a 3. And in the poll, we actually did uncover that was the case. 56% of our participants responded that they're currently at a 2. And I think we had 17% at a 3. And we actually had 1 at a 4. So this shows you where the opportunity really is in terms of how integrated and intelligent you're bringing together your data sets and how proactive you can be. Sean, do you want to add any other details onto that?
Yeah, and I think it's because it's hard to do. What we're talking about is advanced, business strategy, and it's transformational in nature. I use the analogy, for instance, with my team. It's like driving down the highway at highway speeds up on 2 wheels, trying to change the other 2 tires. It's not easy. I mean, you've got your business to run, but you got to think transformative into this other area. And so that's why so many groups, hit the kind of that 2 level where they have a couple of surveys. Maybe they have NPS at a relationship. They have CSAT at a transaction. Maybe they even listen to calls and have something there. But getting to a 3 even is now you're looking at text analytics, journey analytics, and you potentially are having to use multiple technologies, multiple vendors. You can build these kind of programs, as someone on this panel will probably be able to talk about in a minute, or you can buy the technologies and try to integrate them through the vendors. And then I like to recommend there's a new bespoke opportunity where things are actually coming to businesses that will actually do it for you in a way that, shortens the time of deployment from, 5 years to 3 years to even 3 months in the right scenario. So it's a pretty incredible time these days with all the new capabilities and the right strategy to drive them.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. All right. Well, now I'm going to turn it over to our participants to kind of talk about some of the insights that they received. So, Andy, if you wouldn't mind opening us up, tell us a little bit about your discussion in the breakout rooms and some of the thoughts that you've had as we met today.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, great subject. So thanks, Sean. I've done a lot of analytics work through the years, all the way back from, when you had to do it all very manually. So it's an exciting time to see where we are. It's a little overwhelming, like you said, but I think the tools and capabilities that are there today to move this needle are just amazing. And so we talked a lot about that, in the room. We did get a little geeky about the tools, but a lot of the focus, two things I think, was consolidation. So we were in the multimodal. So that's already pretty mature, and talking about how do you get to that next stage? Well, it's kind of in the name. So you kind of led the witness there, Sean, with integrated.
Yeah.
I mean, the big key is pulling it all together, right? So how do you get information from all your channels, whether it's, voice. I mean, voice is huge now, right? You can do all that with AI and analytics. You can get all of that rich information from voice, but not only there, but social and any email interactions you're having, interactions on your website, chat. So making sure that that's all feeding into the same engine, and then really driving actionability out of that. So, and again, the tools are there today that help. You don't have to, we talked about, again, a lot of us have come up in the knowledge management world and knowledge-centered service, where you had to build and write these articles and refine and create all that content. Today, now you can create, I'll steal your word, this bespoke engine that's surfacing the right content and the right information based on those analytics, so you can take the next action. And I think that's the maturity. It's not just having the analytics, but it's driving these next actions and understanding what creates a great experience for your customer, whatever they're trying to get done, and then having a system that's helping, that's learning what drives that, and then helping to ensure that those things are happening.
Great points, Andy. Thank you for that. Love it. Tony.
Hey everyone. Yeah, no, it was cool to be in the breakout room I was in. Most of us were pretty much in the same exact spot, kind of stuck in between being siloed and multimodal. Kind of leaning towards still silo a little bit more than multimodal. Really, for all of us in the breakout room, it was how do we transition from a lot of the manual work, and Mark kind of touched on that already. But for us, for example, Focus D, to the cannabis vaporizer company, we've taken a lot of customer feedback through text, data, things like that. Have run it through sort of different types of analysis and determine different factors. For example, a lot of our international customers, we need to treat a little bit differently because the wait times are longer. Any kind of warranty things they're going through are a little bit more complex than U.S. domestic orders. So we've been able to kind of transition into speaking to them a little bit differently, offering them newer solutions. We already seen a lot of positivity just from that in this last month, which has been fantastic. But now it's really just focusing on getting that into a more integrated kind of system and a smoother kind of process for everybody involved, my team, as well as our customers. But really, it's like taking all this manual stuff and then just transitioning it. So it was cool to kind of just go back and forth with everybody in the breakout room about that, and just kind of see where everybody's kind of stuck in that place. It's very common to be stuck in that place, and but also being able to kind of share those insights. And yeah, it's now kind of getting those resources and money to take it to that next step, I think is the biggest thing for my company. And I know there's a lot of companies out there that kind of need those resources too. So.
Excellent frontline view of that transition from 2 to 3. Thank you, Tony. Anyone else want to come forward and kind of talk about your transformation, what you're working on?
I can jump in for a second. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I agree with everything that's been said. I was in one of the groups discussing level 3 multimodal. I agree with everything you're saying, Andy. I think the big piece initially is the consolidation, right? It's like, how do you get all the information into the same place so that you can use that and figure out kind of what to do next? And I agree with everything you said, Andy, about kind of all the different channels that we're currently working in within CS, but also I would add really working cross-functionally with other groups that have additional touch points. So whether that be formal customer feedback or anecdotal feedback through sales, marketing, any other touch point that the customer could have to really understand what has been their full experience with the company. And then kind of once you have that, yes, then you can jump into the analytics. You can jump into everything Andy was mentioning about really determining what are the factors that are making people happy or unhappy, and how do you kind of put thresholds in place for unhappiness to try to jump in there, even if it's manually ahead of time to kind of correct that path. And then, ideally in the long term, doing that proactively through AI and other tools. But I think that, yeah, the first part is making sure you understand all the interactions and what that experience is like, and then bringing in the analytics.
Great points, Jason. Thanks for that. A heavy lift. Lot
Yeah,
of
I in response to that, I think, Jason and Andy both, and Paul and I were talking earlier. The biggest thing that you wouldn't necessarily think is to get all the technology and the data together. You actually, as you just said, and I love it, you got to start with people first. You've got to champion the idea. Get the kind of stories that will resonate, because it's not just about statistics and things. You got to actually get hearts and minds included, because you have to break the normal business cycle, that normal siloed, I do what I do because my boss tells me to do it and I'm focused on my channel. You have to break that down, and you've got to reach across the aisle and make that impact. So it always starts with the people, from a 1 to a 2, 2 to 3, but definitely when you get to the 2 to the 3 and the 3 to the 4, for sure, it's more about people at that point than it is anything else, because you got to get them to buy into the idea.
And I would say also, I've started from 1 and I've gone to 4 twice. And having that roadmap in mind, when you're still at 1 for 4 is really important, and being able to make the case, being able to explain, what do you get from all of this expensive software that we're going to buy? What does that mean? And let me put it to you this way. Say, if I'm at 1 and I'm having to read all of those surveys manually, we could cover so much more ground, and we could do so much more if we could automate some of this. And that helps us get to level 2, level 3. And ultimately, in level 4, you have to be able to tell the stories of omni-channel monitoring and pain point detection across journeys and across channels, and being able to tell, what does that really mean to the customer? Because it all comes back to the customer. We want to deliver, great experiences. And there's a lot of opportunity to turn a negative experience around to a loyalty situation, especially if you close the loop.
Wow, Paul, thank you. Great insights. I didn't realize that you'd gone from 1 to 4 a couple times. So that is some good stuff. All right. Who would like to go next?
I would. I didn't raise my hand here, but
Oh,
here.
great. No worries.
Sean, fantastic talk. I definitely am taking away more listening opportunities. I'm in a new position. I've also too built from 1 to 2 and opening 3. I'm in a new platform now that is not custom built. And so I am trying to find the customer's feedback in a new way. My question to you is that you use this example of AI and the kind of, you did this blend of all the surveys. Can you tell me just maybe a little bit more of your starting point? I'm currently on 2 wheels and changing the tire. And so I feel like the noisiest thing is the thing that I'm paying the most attention to. But I know by experience that things that are not being said is really what moves the gear and gets customers to say, wow, they did interrupt something that was going to go south. Love to hear your thoughts here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going to and understanding the opportunity here, and I again, what Paul Robinson said was so key. It's having the vision of I want to get to, we want to get to 5 eventually, but how do you do it in small pieces? The epitome of most challenges today is, getting to a point of measurement, but stopping at measurement for measurement's sake. And because of that, you're even reacting to what you're measuring, but it's a very short-term kind of view. And that's why I recommend, as you think about what you're looking at and what you're measuring, and this ties back to the first session I did. If you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it. It's about measuring maybe differently. So for instance, I have nothing, I love Net Promoter Score. I've used that a ton. It does predict loyalty, but it doesn't really give you as much actionable. I have no problem with CSAT, OSAT, CSAT, some sort of satisfaction metric. The reality, though, is that's a very short-term view. That's that whack-a-mole kind of survey. What I like to look at is effort. How hard is it to not only, accomplish your task within a channel, but even more importantly, across channels. So asking things like the customer effort score, because it's not about, well, how satisfied were you with this agent that I might use for a bonus or anything. It's about your effort. Now you're starting to get to what's important to them. And it has the proven data that says, again, high effort, 5 times more likely to be disloyal. What you may find is your satisfaction issues are different than your effort issues. Now you can play both roles of short-term fixes, longer-term improvement. And you start to look at that to say, because since effort drives loyalty, effort actually helps you change your Net Promoter Score, by the way. So now there's nothing more actionable about looking something that someone said is hard and why they said it was hard and actually going out and fixing it. That becomes the action that creates the loyalty, or it actually reduces disloyalty is really the way the math works. But that's ultimately how you do it. And then you can start to grow into those other tools, because it's like, okay, I know where the challenge is. Why? That's where you start to look at text analytics, the conversation, sentiment. So for instance, I'll use an example. When you start to blend this stuff together, what I found was, again, high effort, 5 times more likely to be disloyal. High effort with very negative sentiment or emotion, 10 times more likely to be disloyal, because there's high effort that is just frustrating. And then there's high effort, which is damaging. And I'm very upset. And so now you start to layer those in and the prediction becomes greater and the opportunity to actually make change. And that's ultimately the idea behind getting to a 5 is I pick up on them as they're happening and now I change it mid-cycle and I fix it. And that's ultimately what you're starting to do. And a lot of executives have to be, and Paul Robinson, again, talked about when he and I were talking, you've got to, spend time getting them to understand it and understand the vision. And from that perspective, and ultimately, that's what I do a lot right now is help people, talk to their businesses and not just about the physical strategy, but about the collaboration and the people strategy as well.
What a great session. Thank you for that. Thanks for such great questions. Thanks for your contributions, folks. We'll continue the discussion in our LinkedIn group and hope to see you there. And then those watching, hope to see you at our next Brain Trust. Thanks again, everyone, for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you.